back. I'm Katie and today we are doing a catch up on some favourites. I missed a couple of months of favourites videos because I was a bit slow on the YouTube video making front. So I have quite a lot to share with you today. This is going to be books, decks, games, YouTube related stuff, other events and things I've been up to. A whole lot of stuff, so let's just dive right in. So it's almost a tradition at this point that we start with books on this channel. Now I haven't read a huge amount, unfortunately, because I had tonsillitis for like 3 weeks and was a bit busy and my best friend's in hospital and just stuff, just life, right? But I have read a couple of books that I wanted to talk to you about. The first is Pagan Planet, Being, Believing and Belonging in the 21st Century, edited by Nimue Brown. This is a little collection of different entries from different pagans around the world in the 21st century. I'll read you the little blurb. It's, what does it mean to live as a pagan in this uncertain world of climate change, economic hardship and worldwide social injustice? What does it mean to hold nature as sacred when ravaging the land is commonplace? How do we live our paganism in our families and homes, our communities and countries? Pagans are stepping up in all kinds of ways. So this is a bit of a community project, it feels like, where all different pagans from all over the world have just shared their thoughts and views on what it's like to be a pagan in the 21st century. And there's quite a bit of a mix in terms of ages and paths and different experiences in here, which is always nice to see in a collection, of course. It feels pretty casual in a lot of ways, like it doesn't feel like overly academic or anything. If anything, they kind of, a lot of them feel almost like blog posts that have been put into a book. So it's quite casual, quite friendly and accessible. Of course, as with all collection sort of books, I identified with some a lot more than I did others, but overall I just really enjoyed it. I tend to like these sort of collection books. I really like that whole community project sort of approach to sharing what it's like to be on a path, because everyone has different experiences, and I think we have a lot more of a colourful, more rich perspective when we get lots of different ideas. But overall, I just really enjoyed it. It was just a good, easy read. The next book I read was the Ching. I figured after reading and disliking so strongly The Death of Piglet, which I did a review on, worst book I've read all year, I should probably read the Ching myself. Now, I'm not an expert on which is the best translation. I went on Reddit and Reddit said that this is a pretty good one. It's the one by Feng in English. So this is the one I chose. And I don't really know what to say. I can't pretend that I understood a lot of it, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process of reading it. Every now and then little bits would kind of like hit me, you know. I have kind of just moments of clarity or awe, but for a lot of it I was just kind of like, I don't think I really understand. Which, I don't know, maybe I'm showing my ignorance, but I don't know, I just kind of let myself read it. Before bed I would just kind of read out, I read most of them out loud. I'd just kind of read out loud 2 or 3 of them, and after I'd read one I just kind of sit there and just like let my voice linger in the air afterwards. I wasn't trying to understand it, comprehend it too much. I didn't want to overthink it, because I thought that was kind of not the point. So yeah, I don't know, I really quite enjoyed it, and I feel like it's something that I'd like to reread over time. So maybe in like 3 or 4 years, read it again, and just see if I have a different experience. I'm kind of like part way through several other books, one of which, and this is the one I've read the most of, is Melbourne by Sophie Cunningham. You might remember that my favourite book this year probably was City of Trees. I just fell in love with that book. That one's also by Sophie Cunningham, and turns out she wrote a book about Melbourne. I live in Melbourne and I adore this city. I've been here for 7 years, and I've said time and time again that I moved around quite a bit as a kid, and I just never felt home. I've been in Melbourne and I don't ever want to leave. I adore this place, and I feel home. Specifically in the inner west. I love where I live. I feel like spiritually connected to this place, and I don't really know why, but I adore it. So when I found out that the author of my favourite book of the year wrote a book about my favourite city, of course I had to buy it. I am finding it perhaps less compelling than City of Trees. I definitely enjoyed that more. This is a bit more of like a rambly wander through the streets of Melbourne and its history. That's kind of the best way I would describe it. It's a little less coherent, or cohesive is the better word, than City of Trees in a weird way. But I am liking it. I'm just not head over heels in love with it the way I was with City of Trees. So I'm making my way through slowly. Okay, now we're on to Oracle and Tarot decks. Again, not a huge amount because I haven't been reading for myself a lot this year, really, in general. I kind of do little pulls from time to time, whether it's a 1-card pull just because I'm feeling like I need a bit of inspiration for the day, or maybe a 3-card draw around a decision or something that's happening in my life. That's kind of the extent of my tarot practice at the moment. So you can probably see behind me, oh well, actually this is off camera, but the tarot deck I've been mostly using still is the Lunar Soul. It's just the one that's kind of stayed out on my desk. In fact, in my live chat last week, we spoke a little bit about the reading I'd done for myself recently. That's the kind of last thing we spoke about in that live chat was, what does this card mean? Am I coming back to YouTube or not? What's going on? So this is the deck that I'm just kind of, I don't know, pulling a couple of cards from every now and then. Like I said, it's not, you know, regularly. I'm not doing like a big weekly reading or even like a daily reading. It's not that quite structured or routine for me at the moment. I love the colors. I love the simplicity of it. I love that it's so much like the Rider-Waite-Smith, so it's just really easy to get on board with. Next, I've also been using a deck that I owned a long time ago actually, but I just repurchased secondhand. It's the Connected and Free Oracle, the Alchemist Oracle. I'm not exactly sure what compelled me to purchase this again. I remember really liking it when I had it last, and I remember using it a lot for a while. But some things just didn't quite click with this deck. And I think largely there's just some cards in here that just don't really fit. And sometimes it doesn't always feel like the keywords and what's written in the book make sense for the art. But it came up for secondhand sale on a Facebook group in Australia. And I just kind of found myself typing sold and, you know, opening PayPal and transferring some money. I don't know, I think it was the colors and the artwork just really drew me in, and I just wanted to kind of spend some time with this artwork again. I think this is a different edition to what I had because I don't remember cards like this. I know there have been a few editions. So I'm not really sure if this is a long-term relationship or just something I'm playing around with. I love that. We'll see. But I'm enjoying it for now. And then we've got the Sacred Creators Oracle, which I traded with one of you last year. Thank you for that. That was a lot of fun. This I haven't been using a lot, and I'm not really sure what my feelings are on it yet overall. I mean, it's beautiful and it's a lot of fun. But I'm still kind of getting used to using it because this is not the sort of deck I would normally use. Like, I don't have any decks that kind of are just a couple of words. And it also, it's not just about business, but it does feel a little bit businessy, which isn't really my thing. But I'm trying to view it more as the creative angle. But even then, I don't always see myself as like a super creative person. Definitely don't see myself as an artist. But I am trying to acknowledge and appreciate a little bit more that creative side of me. And also, I just think a lot of this is quite encouraging. So I'm kind of trying to play around with it and see how it works best for me. But because it is so simple, I'm not really using the guidebook too much. A couple of times I've just like skim read something, but there's a lot of information in there. And at the moment, I'm more just looking for small little doses of inspiration and encouragement and insight, whatever it is. So I'm just kind of playing around with, experimenting with this deck, drawing a card every now and then, drawing a card at the end of a small tarot reading, that sort of thing. So that's pretty much it for tarot and for books. It's probably the shortest tarot book section of a favourites video ever. So next I wanted to talk about something that's quite exciting to me, that I'm having a lot of fun with in my life, is board games. I've always been a fan of board games, but I've never been into board games. So to me, board games were always like Scrabble and Monopoly and card games, you know, like that's what I played. But I've always loved that, but struggled to get people to play with me. But I finally actually gotten Blair into playing some games with me every now and then, which is really exciting to me. I just suppose I wanted to find a way for us to spend a bit of time together that was fun and engaging, but wasn't you know, didn't involve going out and eating or, you know, watching TV. I wanted to just try something a little bit new for us. And he's a big computer gamer, so I kind of thought that just bring that back to the original. Let's play a tabletop game instead. And so I did a lot of research around, you know, finding 2-player games that are good, fun and engaging, but don't go for too long, but also aren't just like literally rolling dice sort of games. And I found a whole new world opened up to me. And so we have kind of a handful of games that we've been playing, but I'm always on the lookout for something new, although, you know, we are just really enjoying the games we have so far. So I wanted to kind of talk to you through briefly a couple of our favorites. So the first one we fell in love with was Hanamikoji. This is just a little 2-player card game, I suppose. And it's so simple, but really, really engaging. One game lasts for maybe 15 minutes, so we tend to play it a few times, and it is just so fun. At the beginning, I hated it though. I think because I was trying to overthink it. I was trying to plan too much, and there's only so much you can really, you know, analyze a game before you just get paralyzed and stop enjoying it. That's what I was doing for the first few couple of games, to the point where we were stretching a game out to 45 minutes and Blair was just getting annoyed with me. So I kind of stepped out of that and just let myself enjoy the game a whole lot more, I suppose, which is the point of a game, right? I'm not very good at explaining games because I'm still very new to all of this, so I don't know the, you know, the proper words for the mechanics and stuff of the game, but I'll read you a little bit on the back. It says, in Hanamikoji, 2 players compete to earn the favor of 7 illustrious geishas by collecting each geisha's preferred performance item. With careful speculation and a few bold moves, can you outsmart your opponent to win the favor of the most geishas? Now, I think it's so clever. Like, the theme isn't really particularly embedded in the process, right? The cards are really pretty though, but you're not really thinking about geishas. You're more just thinking about color matching and getting your cards down and getting the most points. But it's so simple because there's only like 28 cards in total in this game, and then a couple of little markers. And basically you each get a bunch of cards, and you literally have 4 moves that you make. You have to make all 4 of these different moves, and that's it. Those are your turns, those 4 turns. But the artwork is just really pretty, and it's just a really, really fun, exciting little game. We just love it. I also picked up Odin's Ravens. This was a bit on a whim. We actually had this in at the bookshop. I don't really know why. We're not a game shop. We do sell cards and oracle decks, and so maybe this came up as one of those things or something. But we had it for a couple of weeks, and eventually I was just like, bugger it, I want it. And apparently this was a Kickstarter game, or it was an old game that's been reprinted or something. But again, it's a really simple concept. Basically, you kind of have to move your raven along a path. And the paths, you know, have different territories or landscapes, I suppose, and you have to use your different landscape cards to move through it. So it's kind of like a little race, and you just have to match your cards to be able to move. But then there's also the Loki cards, which are the trickster cards, which kind of give you special abilities to either help you or to sabotage your opponent. Again, it's a pretty quick little game, but it's a lot of fun. It's really colourful. I don't know, it's just a fun little game. Our favourite game though, that we are obsessed with, is Heart of Crown. Now, it comes in a bit of a larger box. This is just an expansion box, which is so cute. It reminds me of an Oracle deck box, right? This is incredible, this game. It's what they call a deck builder. So the whole game, you know, you kind of start with a bit of a shitty deck of 10 cards, and you use those cards to buy more cards that are better. And eventually, hopefully, if you get enough territories, you can back a princess. And there's 6 different princesses in the base game to choose from, and they each have different abilities. And then you kind of have to get her some points, and then the first one to 20 points wins. It's really, really fun. Blair and I love it. It's his favourite game, even though he didn't actually want to play it in the beginning, because, you know, he just was like, oh, I don't really want to try it. It doesn't seem like something I'm going to like. And I was like, let's just give it a go. He loved it. Halfway through, I looked over at him and he was so into it, you know. I was just like, you're enjoying this game, aren't you? He's like, yeah. And now whenever I'm like, hey, want to play a game tonight after dinner? He's like, sure, can we play Heart of Crown? It is just the best game. We love it. I'm a little concerned we're going to wear it out. We play it so much. You know, we play games together once or twice, maybe 3 times a week, just, you know, after dinner or something. And at the moment, 90% of the time we're playing Heart of Crown. That one is a 2 to 4 player game. We've only played it the 2 of us. Maybe we'll invite some friends over to play it with them as well and see how it goes. But for now, it's just such an engaging game. It goes for a little bit longer. It's more like a 45 minute, sometimes even an hour long game, which is actually quite a nice length for us, we found. It's nice to have the shorter games for when we don't really feel like getting too into something, but you know, with Heart of Crown, it's a bit more satisfying, you know, kind of really putting together a deck that's going to work for you and picking the cards you want to use, and then, you know, getting to the point where you can back the princess that you really want. For those of you who are really into games, apparently it's quite similar to Dominion, but there's a couple of different mechanics involved that we really love. Okay, before I get into just kind of what I've been up to, I wanted to talk about YouTube and some stuff on YouTube I've been loving. Some of this is relevant to TarotTube, some of it's just kind of YouTube on a larger scale. But there's just been some really great videos and stuff happening on this platform that I wanted to talk about. The first I've written down, now it was quite a while ago since I watched this video, because as I said, I'm very behind on my favorites, but it was a video by Annabelle Wen, actually, and she did a video called Mastering the General Reading, in which she shared a method by Paul Foster Case of how to kind of do a reading when you don't really have a question. And I really found that interesting. I loved the way she walked it through, and also I loved experimenting and playing around with it. Like I said, I'm very behind on favorites videos, so it's been a while since I watched this video and I'd almost forgotten about it. So I'm glad I've got it here and I'm sharing it with you, because I want to go back and watch it again and experiment a little bit more, play around a little bit more, practice a little bit more with that method, because I just thought it was so interesting and it really got me outside of my own box with tarot. I loved that video. It was really well put together, explained everything very clearly, and just a fun new way to look at tarot readings. When I say new, it's not new at all. Paul Foster Case was writing a long time ago. New for me and how I approach the cards. Another video was not at all tarot related, but it is book related, and obviously work in a bookshop, have a lot of books, read all the time, big book nerd here. It was a video by Max Joseph and it was called Bookstores: How to Read More Books in the Golden Age of Content. And I loved this video. I watched it twice, once on my own when YouTube recommended it to me. Thank you, YouTube algorithm. And then a second time with Mum, because I wanted to show her and I knew she'd love it and I wanted to watch it again anyway. It was such a beautifully shot journey with this creator, with Max. It's not really just about how to read more in the age of content. It is a little bit, but it's also kind of like this travel vlog around the world. Well, not really around all of the world, but mostly in like Western Europe and America. Was it South America? Been a little while since I watched the video. Where he goes to different beautiful bookstores and films them and, you know, discusses books. And he also interviews some people and discusses the importance of reading and how to read more. And I just loved it. It was such a beautifully put together video. I just loved that video and I cannot recommend it more highly. If you have a spare half hour or however long it is to sit down and enjoy, and I promise you, you will be reaching for your book and desperate to read more once you finished it. Now, these next 2 videos I'm not going to talk about too much because they were massive. Everybody saw them. They went viral. They were on trending. They were the 2 big coming out videos of Pride Month this year by 2 massive YouTubers who have been on this platform for a long time, and they were completely different and I loved that about them. The first was by Eugene from the Try Guys, and it was more like this art performance piece. There was no words, it was just dancing and movement, and it made me cry. It was just beautiful. It was genuinely beautiful. The other one was Dan Howells from Dan and Phil. Dan Is Not on Fire, if we're going way back. I've always liked Dan. I like his humor. It was a 45-minute long video, even though he hasn't uploaded in 15 months. Hi, Dan. But I just loved that. He took us on this long journey of basically growing up in an environment where he learnt from a very early age that gayness and queerness are terrible things. And it took him a long time to not hate himself because of that. And therefore a long time to come out. In both of those videos, I just loved how different they were, but how true to them they were and appropriate for those creators. They were both just beautiful. And finally, the last piece of content that I've been in love with lately is a podcast. And that is the Speaking of Which podcast by Semi Menzo and Skylar. Semi, I always talk about Semi. I love her YouTube channel. She's someone I really like watching here on YouTube. And it's such a fun podcast. It's Speaking of Which, so obviously they both talk about kind of this more alternative spirituality stuff. They also are both big tarot readers, so a lot of the podcasts come or involve tarot. It's a very chatty podcast, so it's not like a topical lesson or something. It's literally two best mates sitting down and having a laugh and talking through things. And I mean, they do bring it back to lessons or ideas, or they involve the cards in some way, which kind of gives it that direction and added interest for someone like me. But ultimately, I love it. I've been listening to it on the way to work, so I'm literally sitting on the train in peak hour cackling because they are both so funny. I look like a bit of an idiot on the train, but I kind of don't care, because especially on those mornings where it's cold and it's wet and I don't really want to get out of bed, I can put them on and I don't care anymore that I'm in a full stuffy train on a wet, miserable Melbourne morning. It's so much fun to travel to work with those two because they are hilarious. Now finally, what I've been up to. There's not a huge amount of things on this list because, as I said, there's a lot going on in my personal life and I was unwell for quite a lot of the past month. But there were a couple of cool things that I wanted to mention. The first was my channel hitting 10,000 subscribers, which is crazy. It's crazy. I've been on here since, I think my first video was in October of 2014. So it's nearly 5 years. So it's been a bit of a slog, but it's not about numbers, but there is something about a milestone like that that does kind of, it feels significant in a way. And I don't know, like it's just kind of really cool. So I wanted to add that in here and say thank you to those of you who, whether you're new or you've been around for a while, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for supporting me in whatever way you do that at the moment. I don't know. It's kind of really cool. So thanks. And I suppose the big thing that I did get up to recently was my little weekend away to Sydney. I went to Sydney to meet two of my really good friends, Annie and Mark. We went primarily to see Blackpink on the Saturday night, but I got to spend the whole weekend with them, which was wonderful. They're two people I adore. I've known them for the better part of 10 years, and I don't get to see them all the time, so just to kind of spend that really good time with them for a weekend, it was just one of those weekends that it makes me emotional just thinking about how happy I was. Like nothing particularly significant happened. It was just wonderful to spend time with people that I love. And I had a lot of fun. I'd never been to Sydney before, not properly. We drove through it once when I was a kid on the way to somewhere else because my brother and I wanted to see the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And we were driving across it, and my brother and I were very disappointed because we thought you went up over the thing, it wasn't just a bridge with a pretty thing. We thought you drove over the thing. So we were very disappointed. So that's my only experience of Sydney before this. When I got there, we ended up accidentally in the middle of Chinatown. We didn't really know where we were staying. And we were so close to the center of the city. We just would walk there every day. It was like a 10-minute walk. It was just honestly wonderful. And then of course, Blackpink. It was my first K-pop concert and I'm so glad I went with two people who love K-pop and Blackpink as much as I do. We had terrible seats because it sold out all very quickly. So we were in the nosebleed section right up on on the edge of the stage, but we didn't care. The atmosphere was incredible. Like I know K-pop concerts are very different in terms like the fan chants and everything. I know that from, watching YouTube videos and everything, but being there was really something quite special. Hey, boy. Every time I show up.
every time I show up. And the moon,
and I love the girls. Jisoo and Jenny like tend to be the two that I'm drawn to the most. But Rosie is actually from Australia. She's from Melbourne, actually. And she sang I'm Coming Home and Let It Be as kind of her little solo bits, because they don't have very many songs, so they have to do covers. And during I'm Coming Home, all three of us cried. It was just beautiful, and you know, she hasn't been home in a long time, and it just felt really special and beautiful. So that was a highlight. Wanted to mention my new Patreon and book club. We're about to get started on our first book, which is Belonging, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to really get into this Discord and live chats and hanging out, whether you're part of the book club or not. I'm really excited about this space that's a little bit more private for those of you who want to hang out with me a little bit more intimately. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, if you sign up before the end of this month, you'll go into the draw to win our second book, which will be happening in September. And also if you sign up for $5 or more, you'll get a postcard from me to thank you and to get excited about getting started in August. So links will be in the description for that if you're interested. But anyway, I think we're all caught up now on the stuff I've been loving, what I've been up to, all of that good stuff. Thanks for hanging out with me for the past half hour or however long this video ends up being. It's been great, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. So much love. Bye.